a leg. No one else was hurt. About 150 people were attending the service. I'm Julie Walker.
5 people were taken to a North Carolina hospital after a flight from Miami hit turbulence last night. The fasten seatbelt sign was on when American Airlines Flight 1286 from Miami to Raleigh-Durham encountered unexpected turbulence. The flight landed safely, but 3 flight attendants and 2 passengers were hospitalized. All have since been released. More on these stories at townhall.com.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Do you believe the truth will set you free? Is that why all the leftist media now acknowledging Biden was not fit for office? We all saw it. His staff saw it. We all tried to cover for him. No, they're admitting now that he's out while they're trying to sell books. Is that supposed to restore your belief in journalism or fantasy tales? You know, CNN's Jake Tapper released his book about the cover-up, which did include Tapper's assistants, but now trying to wash his hands of it, trying to say, well, I was lied to. Yeah, Jake. Now, Chuck Todd says, I'm convinced Biden's team purposely set up that disastrous debate knowing he was going to look like a train wreck. Todd says there were people in the room in the Biden campaign who thought maybe we need that debate to show others what we're dealing with behind the scenes. What's that, like putting him on a sheet of ice, then shoving him into deep, warm water? Todd now says they set him up to fail. I would go to my grave believing they did. Well, I'll go to my grave knowing Todd, Tapper, and others were always lying to us about Biden.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill.
News Talk STL. This hour of the Allman Report brought to you by STL Fenceworks, celebrating 50 years of industry-leading service for fence, deck, and leisure space solutions. Visit STLFenceworks.com.
Give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please. Don't fence me in. Don't fence me in. Just turn me loose, let me straddle my own saddle underneath the western skies. On my kind.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here, really happy to be with you after a gigantic weekend. My biggest takeaway is, why didn't President Trump let Jasmine Crockett know this was happening? It's devastating news. Also, right now, just to give you an update, we've now tricked Iran into basically bombing all of its Arab neighbors, which is going to go over really well with all of them. And the Democrats are defending the Iranians. So well played. Hold my beer, President Donald Trump. Jamie Allman here, really happy to be with you. Ashlyn over there with the controls. And I have been waiting for this all weekend long. People love this guy, have known him for a long, long time, even went to Kansas City on his behalf when he was running for the United States Senate back in 2018. I still think Tony Manetti should have won, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. What a great guy. Went to Kansas City, met Sarah Palin, who was also an endorser of Colonel Tony Manetti, and you also know Tony Manetti as a heroic B-2 stealth bomber pilot. And he's the guy we want to hear from this morning about this amazing mission. But first, I want to tell you, hello, Tony. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Jamie, so good to hear your voice again. Doing well. Thanks a lot, sir.
Oh, haven't talked to you in a long time, but we'll never forget your passion when you were running for office and your absolute love of this country and your heroic time in the United States Air Force as a B-2 pilot. You also have since then written a book, which I can't wait to talk more about either. I just want to ask a few, really dumb questions because we don't really get a chance to talk to too many stealth bomber pilots. But first of all, what did you think about what happened? None of this probably surprised you in any sense about the bravery and the tactics and the absolute unbelievable war games these guys were playing.
No, I'm so proud of the men and women of the 509th Bomb Wing. I was privileged and honored to be a member of the very first cadre, IQT number 7, we called it. And I got there in 94 when we only had 2 or 3 bombers. And we've seen the platform just evolve into what it is today, providing America with global reach and global power. So I was really proud of the men and women, especially the warriors that were in the cockpits executing the mission flawlessly. Well done.
Yeah. So in the run up to this, I know that there have been some plans. People have been talking about this for a long time. I realize. And so, but I'm always curious about how this winds up. So are the pilots that are they like living at Whiteman and basically just waiting for the time when they're called to duty? Like, how does this unravel? How does this unfold?
Sure. I happen to have flown combat missions from Missouri, over 33-hour missions. So, don't draw me a map unless you've been there. I've been there, done that. And in essence, Jamie, to answer your question, we are basically always training the way we fight, and we fight the way we train. And we're aware of what the global threats are. We study the threats and the potential targets. And then if and when called upon, you're called in and you have what's called an air tasking order. The president and the generals have decided these are the targets, these are the threats. The planners help get it all together, and you come in and you get a briefing. You launch, you air refuel a couple times. A lot of it is hand flown. You have to fly the aircraft and refuel 45 minutes a pop 4 times. And then you stealthen up, you go in country, and then you see what the threats are, and then you're focused on the target. You stay cool, you do what you've been trained to do. And then after you release the weapons, the TSD, we call it, threat situational display, tells us what's launching, if anything. And then we get out of country and then air refuel a few more times and then come home and watch the battle damage assessment to see, how effective we were. And obviously, yesterday we sent, according to reports, at least 7 over the target with the 2 of the GB-57s, and they successfully accomplished their mission.
This refueling exercise in the air, and even as they are flying, all while apparently it's my understanding that they had to have minimal communication over the radios and everything else. So a lot of this was done without these guys talking to each other all that much.
Yeah, we call it MCON 3 and 4. Basically, it depends on the level of secrecy. On one of the missions I went on, no one knew about it, very few, and we launched just 2 B-2s against certain targets, and we went alone and unafraid with no other support assets whatsoever except for air refueling. And it was quite the mission. I'll never forget. After you drop the bombs and you're refueling it, you're just exhausted because you just got out of country and you still have another 18 hours to go. I remember landing, coming home. My wife didn't even know I was on a combat mission. Turned on the TV, saw CNN, and showed that the Navy had hit targets that I had just hit with the other guys. And then she asked me to go cut the lawn. What a way to fight a war!
Yeah,
crazy stuff, man.
Oh,
Yeah, but
yeah.
that's the straight scoop, man. And air refueling. We do it a lot, whenever we fly, we try to air fuel, we practice bombing. And so we really squeeze a lot out of it. We're also in the simulator a few times a week. So we're constantly training. We're staying sharp. The B-2 pilots, we're not a bunch of prima donna great pilots. There's been more people who've been out of space that have flown the B-2. We know it's a privilege. So we treasure our time and we train. And then when we go to war, it's like we're training, only we're doing. It's like a boxer. You go in the ring and you just do muscle memory, man.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to withstand, a 15-hour straight, plus obviously mission like that without any sleep or anything like that, and just to be called upon to do something like this, you always have to be ready. That's amazing, and also with the technology. It is incredible the kind of tech that I think that a lot of us take for granted until we actually see or hear the details of what this mission was all about. We take a lot for granted, I think, in this country about the capabilities that our military has.
Yeah, and we're blessed as a nation to have, Northrop created an incredible aircraft. It's over 20 years old, cleared 30, and it's still incredibly effective. And there's going to be a new one coming out, the B-21, and there's a new, fifth, sixth generation fighter coming out. So, America is always cutting edge, and we're able to, provide our leaders with the tools necessary to achieve their global objectives based on the threat. And clearly, you can't have, a leading nation in terrorism with a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
But that said, that we're not political animals. We just do what we need to do. And it's all about the mission and the team and the men and women, the maintainers, the refuelers, the security people. We're the tip of the spear, and we know it, but at the same time, we know it's all about the team. And it helps having a strong leader like President Trump. I don't think he's excited about entering any more of these endless wars. In fact, he's trying to bring peace to Ukraine and India, Pakistan. So, I'm sure this weighed on him heavily. And he had to have known, like we all do, that there's going to be a response, ladies and gentlemen. And we're seeing it now, of course, with the regional. But there could be sleeper cells. There could be other things. You have to think like the enemy. What are they going to do to, cause harm? And so that's why I'm so grateful in America. We have freedom of speech and right to bear arms. Keep your head on a swivel.
Well,
and,
yeah,
it's fights on.
I mean, right now, the air raid sirens are going off in Bahrain and Kuwait and Qatar and Iraq. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this isn't Iran. This is almost putting them even in a worse position now that they're starting to attack their neighbors. I realize they are our bases mostly. I get it. But you're still sending rockets over into other Arab countries, and it's just going to make Iran even more disliked than it already is. I mean, Hezbollah even was like, we're not, they were like, hey, you need to help us out. And Hezbollah's like, we're not going near this because you're so scared of the IDF in America.
That's exactly right. Iran has close to 3,000 long-range ballistic missiles, and they got like, 8,000 short-range ones. They're going to use all the tools they have necessary, and you have to think like the enemy. What would you do to inflict damage and cause more chaos? So, we got 40,000 troops there. So I'm sure our leaders are doing their best to protect and defend them. My concern really is other players like Russia and China getting involved, and this could quickly escalate. So yeah. I'm praying for our leaders to use wisdom and how to balance a response and at the same time achieve our objectives,
Yeah, I would think so. And I'll tell you, even if there's a closing off of the Strait of Hormuz, everything else, I mean, China and Russia, that's not going to help them. I mean, there's a lot of stalemating going on, I think, at least I'm hoping and praying for, Tony Minetti, you
That's right.
you made a really good run that 2018 race for the Missouri Senate, the Republican nomination. Man, you really worked your tail off, you and your whole family and everybody else. You had Sebastian Gorka on your side. You had Sarah Palin on your side. And, once you were done, you're like, man, I'm going to take a little break here, whatever. And you also wrote a book. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, Jamie. Don't draw me a map unless you've been there. I've been there, done that now with the politics, and it's a corrupt rigged system. And then I took a time off, and I did write a book. It's called The Stealth Way, Live Life Fully. And I basically share with people how stealth warriors think and operate, discipline, the importance of core values, and then knowing where you're going, seeing yourself as you truly are. I call the stealth low observability. And it's all about character development. And I wrote this book. It took me 5 years actually to write it, and recently published it. And it's available on Amazon. Just The Stealth Way. And Yvette Kinney helped me write it. She's an amazing woman and a great writer. And so I'm excited to share that with the world. If you want to get an insight how B-2 stealth pilots think and operate, how we train, how we fight, and how we live, really. And it's all about serving others over self and having joy in life and, valuing your faith, your family. And, in my case, I'm so blessed to live in the greatest country in the world. So I shared a little insight into that life, if you will.
Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. And The Stealth Way, you could find it on Amazon. And Tony, it reminds me when you're talking about the life of a stealth bomber pilot, how did the planes, how'd the base wind up at Whiteman?
Yeah, when they first looked at having such a strategic asset, unfortunately, a lot of it had to do with if you think of the Cold War, nuclear capability where missiles can come inbound, and we're in the center of America. It's going to take a little bit longer. So if you have deterrence, that means that if there was any kind of attack, you would have plenty of time to launch the bombers if need be. And now it's mutually assured destruction. So a lot of it is geography. We're blessed to have Missouri. I love Missouri. I got here in '94 and live there now, and I've never left. And I think it was wise to put it there. It's a very patriotic state.
Yeah.
And, we're blessed and we have the Chiefs.
Of course.
Don't forget that, man.
Yeah. And another thing about the piloting. So you were obviously in the Air Force before you started flying the stealth. Like, what got you into that program, or how did you decide to do that? I guess it's kind of akin to maybe being in the Army and then decided to become an Army Ranger or something.
Roger that. Yeah, I always wanted to fly jets, and I went to the Air Force Academy, and I got selected for the B-52. I flew 17 missions in the Storm, Desert Storm. And then I found out about the B-1 supersonic bomber, stealthy and supersonic. So I did that for a couple of years. And then I found out about this new B-2 stealth secret aircraft. And they selected like one pilot from every base. And from 16 of us, they narrowed it down to 8. And then we were hand selected to fly the B-2. And I was privileged and honored. I only got there, we only had 2 airplanes. I remember going to Palmdale. There'll be like 200 engineers, and they give us the plane. We fly it around. We'd land it, and they'd all debrief us. We didn't even have a -1. We built it together. And then General Lowe, who's a 4-star who hired us, he gave us a commander's intent and said, someday you're going to be in a room, and they're going to say, how do we employ the B-2? And we're depending on men like you that have the experience, the knowledge, the attitude to, do global reach, global power for us. And, that was all I needed to hear, the commander's intent. It's so important that you have a good leader that shapes the way. And they want you to think in an asymmetric, outside the box view of how to defeat the enemy and achieve results. And it was an incredible experience. I did it for 15 years. I held every job you can think of. And I'm so grateful for the men and women I served with. They're exceptional people. They're not prima donnas. They're really level-headed decision makers that love our country. And we really will do anything to defend her. And right now they're called upon And none of them, like I said, are excited about going to war and dropping bombs. War is an ugly thing, and we should avoid it at all costs. But the enemy should know our resolve, and that is if you mess with the U.S., you're going to get boat-tot bombs on target on time.
Yeah, right on. Well, between the decoying and the fact that the Iran defense never even picked up on any of this mission, the planes, so adding the true definition of stealth, that is for sure. And one thing people,
Amen, brother.
yeah,
Yep.
and one thing people have to also remember about Tony is Tony used to fly. I mean, but Tony, I remember having you on my TV show, and Tony didn't have people. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't arrive with an entourage of like 5 or 6 people. He showed up to my TV show once while he was running. He showed up in a bomber jacket, and it was just him. And he showed up, and we did that interview. And then he had flown himself into St. Louis at the time. So you basically flew your own airplane mostly around the state when you were campaigning. It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, man. I didn't know what I was doing. I'll be honest with you. I just had a heart to serve. I felt like God put it on my heart to run for the U.S. Senate. Learned so much. Came in second out of 13. But I just couldn't go up against the deep state, and that's the truth. There's a lot of lobbyists that feed these career politicians. And, I didn't know what I didn't know, and now I do. But I don't really have any intentions of running for politics anymore. I just see how corrupt and a rigged system is, and I'm grateful to have a different life right now. I love my wife and children, and I'm just going to take it one step at a time. But I am grateful for President Trump. I wish he would have met with me. I really believe that I would have been his wingman in the Senate.
Yeah.
And you'd have a leader that knows how to run a business, knows the military and academia, and it would have given a different perspective. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I just hope and pray that we have good leaders. I encourage people that are listening to stay involved and engaged and stand up for truth. And I'm glad I ran, Jamie. And I'll never forget men like you giving me a chance to speak my voice and just speak from the heart on how and why we should serve. And I never did it for any kind of a power or money. I literally did it as a patriot. And I think that's what we need. We need to have these campaign finance reforms. We need to allow, term limits and balanced budgets and mental health reform. There's so much that's needed. And I am grateful for President Trump for giving up his life. He didn't have to run, but I really believe he loves our country and he wants to make America great again. And if you see what happened in the past, we're having debates on what the heck a man and a woman is, for goodness sake. Are you kidding me, man?
Yeah.
We got some real problems here. And we had Sleepy Joe and Baltazar Harris opening up to 10 million people. How many of them have sleeper cell agents and potential threats that are embedded in our country right now, potentially willing to strike? I'm not trying to bring fear to everyone listening. I'm just speaking reality. So I encourage people to stay involved. And if you see something, say something, because I wouldn't be surprised, just like they're striking these regional actors, that they do something more.
Yeah.
I'm a big supporter of the Golden Dome, of protecting our infrastructure and skies, and of course, any kind of cyber attack. So, we just have to stay vigilant, pray, and at the same time prepare for war.
Yeah, I really just so admire and still do admired your authenticity. That was really apparent to everybody. And, about President Trump in 2016, I think different than from 2024, President Trump, as independent as he was, still had the ear of some of the consultancy class. And that was a little rough. I remember being down in Kansas City. I think that's where we were, Springfield or whatever. And he shouted out Josh Hawley while you guys are still in there. I'm thinking, dude, we haven't made up our minds yet. So,
Brother, Brother, if all I needed was 5 minutes with the guy, and I would have had his ear.
Yeah.
Because, nothing against Josh. I don't want to go there.
Yeah,
except to say that I would always tweet, change Mitch. And he was the Senate majority leader. And everyone's telling me, you can't say that. He's your majority leader. I go, no, he's the problem.
Yeah.
Him and the Pelosi's of the world, the Schumers, they got to go, man. They're out of touch.
Yeah.
And what we need is leaders that are going to put America first. And I literally went to 114 counties. I had to quit my job as an assistant dean to run. And bottom line is, I came up short because I didn't know what I didn't know, but I do now. And I can just tell you that I'm grateful for the experience, and I'm very grateful for men like you that gave me the opportunity to speak, the truth about the importance of men and women like, George Washington, Jefferson, our founding fathers that laid their lives on the line for our country and our Constitution. And we got to continue to fight, baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can't.
So it is what it is, brother.
Well, I love you, man. You're legendary, and I can't wait to read your book, The Stealth Way. You guys can find it. Ashlyn put the link up there on the Facebook page for all of you to link to, because everything you're hearing now is kind of put into and downloaded into a broader story about life in this book by Tony Minetti. And I was also pleased, by the way, to see that when I contacted you, you just happened to be in Aruba. So good for you, brother. I hope you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, man. I happen to be a captain for a major airline, so I travel all over the world. I see different cultures, and it's a wonderful job. It's a great second job, but it's not like flying my B-2 baby.
Yeah. Oh, so
I miss her, man.
So you're flying commercial airlines now?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't want to get into
I know.
who I fly for, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a captain for a major airline.
That's awesome, buddy.
And I also consult and write books and do speaking. But it's nothing like having the mission of the stealth. And I'm so, again, grateful for the men and women of the 509th for flawlessly executing a very challenging mission, and all the other men and women that supported this mission.
Yeah.
So, we're lucky. We lucky few. We wiggled the stick for a while and played in the clouds, and more people have been in outer space that have flown the B-2. So we know we're fortunate and blessed to have flown her. I learned so much from it, not just the platform, but the mindset of the stealth warrior. And that's why I wrote this book. I really hope it helps you live life fully.
Right on, man. And if those passengers only knew who was up in that cockpit, I'll tell you what, that'd be great. All right. Hey, Tony, great talking to you, my friend. I really appreciate you. Thanks for the insight. And we love you here in St. Louis and really appreciate your time.
God bless you, Jamie. Nothing but love for you, brother. Take care.
God bless you, too. That is Colonel Tony Minetti of the United States Air Force and former, man, I think even calling him former B-2 pilots. It's almost kind of like being a Marine. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. And I guess once you're a B-2 stealth pilot, you're always a B-2 stealth pilot. That one thing he said, rather kind of off to the side, was that more people have been in space than have piloted a B-2 stealth bomber. And that's pretty cool, and really hope you all enjoyed that little discussion. This is Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
place to talk. News Talk STL.
Window world, people. And let me tell you something. This is the strongest window you're going to find anywhere in the land. And I love the fact that John Gillette and his team have trusted me here at News Talk STL to talk about them, because let me tell you something. This is a storied brand. I mean, this is a brand that not just they want just anybody to talk about. And so to trust me with this really great brand, the top selling brand of window in the nation, Good Housekeeping seal of approval. It's the best for less. It's the official window of the St. Louis Blues. And these guys are fantastic right here in your hometown of St. Louis. And they are everywhere you need them to be, though. And you'll have a free estimate. They can come out to your house, whatever. These are double pane windows. Their durability is beyond compare. Their thermal superiority is beyond compare. Their pricing and quality and look is beyond compare. So you're talking about the crown jewel of replacement windows, and that would be the Window World window. Trust me. I appreciate all of you who have already trusted me with this with this task, this gem. And already, I will tell you, too, they have great financing plans for you. They have 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. So thank you, Window World, for being here with us on Common Sense Radio. 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800. Window World, simply the best for less.
Success. It's discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us that comes before all recognition. It's the best in each of us, made better by the best in all of us. Whatever success looks like to you, Stifel is invested in yours. That's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. So whether you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stifel, where success means success. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Attention all gun enthusiasts, don't miss the big Franklin County Gun Show happening July 11th through 13th at Washington, Missouri's Elks Lodge. With over 450 tables of pistols, handguns, rifles, long guns, shotguns, ammo, and more. The fun starts Friday, July 11th at 4 and continues all weekend. Admission just $10 and good for the entire weekend. Kids 12 and under get in free with discounts for veterans and first responders. The big Franklin County Gun Show at the Washington, Missouri Elks Lodge the weekend of July 11th. More info at bkpromotions.us.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor-fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint by a lot, backed with our 25-year transferable warranty. Paint a house, shield a home. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, steel, aluminum, cedar, and more. We are the only coating company selected by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where all 3 episodes concentrate on unpainted brick. If you maintain or own a business with a tired-looking building, you owe it to yourself to look at Rhino Shield and our beautifully durable color schemes. Evaluations are free. We're making buildings pop and be noticed again, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks, exceeding expectations every day with our products, people, and performance. Now is the time to call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or go to 877-25rhino.com and see how honest and transparent we really are. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
This is Katie McKinney, founder and head of school for Lafayette Academy in Lake St. Louis. Recently, we had a new second grader come to Lafayette Academy who claimed he was stupid and hated reading. Within months of using our world-class literacy program, he was reading Harry Potter and loving it. He had just not been given the right tools. We invite you to our open house Wednesday, June 25th from 5 till 7 and hear from our current families and learn more about our dedicated teachers and world-class curriculum. To learn more, go to LafayetteAcademy.org. That's LafayetteAcademy.org.
News, analysis, opinion.
Isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country?
How the mayors in these sanctuary jurisdictions are dealing with it, that's interesting.
Safety is our primary concern.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of dumb with her finger and her thumb in the shape of...
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here. I love this weather. I don't know about you, Ashton, but I'm telling you what, I feel like when it's like this, even though people talk about it being hot and everything, I feel like I'm on vacation all the time. Like the ocean is just a step away as far as I'm concerned.
I'm going to have to disagree. I'm a winter baby, so I would rather be cold than hot.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, after this winter, though, and in the spring, it was raining all the time and whatever else. And I guess the only thing I could be thankful for is that rain and some of the cooler air, like, made my garden just go nutso. And by the way, I had the bunnies are back. So last year, remember I told you that this mother bunny, I had these bunnies in my backyard, And they all act. So I think they're flirtatious with me because they kind of let me get so close. And they go, "Oh, Mr. Allman, don't come around. You're trying to attack us." I'm like, "I'm not trying to attack you," And they start running away. But last year, this mom, like trusted me enough to have her babies in my tomato garden. One day I go and there's this big hole in there, these cute little babies in this hole. I'm thinking, okay, Mom, you have some guts right here, thinking that I wouldn't take a shovel to you guys because I'm not that way. And you had your babies right in my garden, probably because I have a fence around it. I still don't know how the hell they got in there. And now this year, she decided to have the babies in the cucumbers, in my cucumber portion of the garden, because I'm sitting there and I'm actually poured some of this gel, like this fertilizer gel, and I'm pouring it at the root. I suddenly realized I just poured a bunch of it onto the back of a baby rabbit. So this rabbit has all this gel crap all over it. There's 3 cute little bunnies in there. And so, just don't eat my cucumbers. And they never ate my tomato. They never ate anything. They just were born there. Then once they got big enough, they left and they never ate anything while they were in there. I find that fascinating. But anyway, all right. So you all know that, the only thing really that mattered over this weekend was the fact that Jasmine Crockett was not informed of the president's intentions. She was not happy about it.
In a car, driving to another location. I literally shed a tear or two. And so long story short, for those of you that are unaware.
No wonder this takes 21 minutes. I'm not going to play all 21 because she needs to spit it out. I mean, gee whiz.
The mofo that resides in the White House has unilaterally, in my estimation, declared war. We have a constitution that seemingly does not matter.
Yeah, we're not at war with Iran, though. And yeah, there's some similarities there. I'll talk to Judge Napolitano about that in the not too distant future. But that's all. The biggest thing was that she said that they were not informed, and there were people who were informed. Hakeem Jeffries was
this
informed,
man or the people that are supposed to be advising him. I will say that I want to give a shout out to a Republican, Thomas Massey.
Mm-hmm. Massey's okay, but he's pulling the same old, kind of pearl clutching salon Republican libertarian thing, and I get it. I understand his concerns. We didn't vote for President Trump to jump right back into the Middle East. I don't think we're going to do that. But then again, I was wrong when I said I didn't think he was going to actually bomb Iran. So, I have been wrong before. I pretty much can say with a level of surety that we will not have boots on the ground. That is a red line that I know most of you think would be crossed if we wound up sending American troops over there. Yeah, are there some military people in harm's way now because Iran is going after them and the bases and things like that? That is true. But of course, none of this was unexpected in any kind of way. So to me, this was as a Trump supporter, this was a tolerable act, and I believe defensible. I believe that President Trump made that case in that late night announcement, which I thought was really great and to the point, short, sweet, laid it out. And I think most Americans understood it. And I think a lot of us, though, are just not ready for the boots on the ground thing, but I can't imagine that happening. Again, I've been wrong before, whatever. Back to Jasmine and the Democrats who weren't made aware. You know what's really crazy about this is that there's a strong likelihood that, and by the way, it is rich that when Obama was bombing the crap out of Iran and other Middle Eastern countries, the Democrats didn't say a peep. It's not like they're anti-war. They're just anti-Trump anything and any kind of success. And so, I mean, here you have people who are supporting a bunch of neo-Nazi soldiers in Ukraine. I mean, so it's not like they don't like war. I mean, we know they do, and so they're not kidding anybody. They also like to leak and everything else, which is why they weren't told. And General Milley, you remember General Milley? Well, President Trump kept this thing so tight to the vest, but now he's surrounded by people he trusts and even that he named. But remember General Milley, who basically is a Democrat, he warned China about President Trump's intentions. He talked to them in a stealth call. I shouldn't even use that term because we love the word stealth, but in a underhanded call to China.
Chinese thought wrongly that the United States was going to attack them. I am certain, guaranteed certain, that President Trump had no intent to attack. And it was my task to make sure I communicated that. And the purpose was to de-escalate, calm things down.
You shared all that earlier. I understand.
And as part of that,
So Milley made a phone call to the Chinese without President Trump's approval or anything of the sort. Do you think President Trump is going to risk letting certain people know who hate him, like Milley or Democrats or whatever, about this? And he wasn't obligated to either. And so we'll get into that a little bit later on. Really, what's also crazy, which I thought was a great story. So really super close to the Pentagon, there's a Papa John's Pizza. And I think it's like 0.7 miles away from the Pentagon. And just about 3:00 in the afternoon, a couple of reporters who are pretty wise, I admire them for picking up on this. They decided they were going to go and check with Papa John's Pizza, and Papa John's actually cooperated with them. And at that time, there was this huge uptick in pizza orders coming from Papa John's, which is right close to the Pentagon. At that point, people started to get this inkling, even though nobody really knew for sure, that something was going to happen based on the fact that Papa John's was selling pizza like hotcakes all throughout the day right next to the Pentagon. So if you really want to boil it all down, there's a really good chance that Papa John's Pizza knew about President Trump's intentions before Jasmine Crockett did. And that makes us all feel good on this Monday afternoon. This is Common Sense Radio. Jamie Allman here, really happy to be with you. News Talk STL 101.9 and 94.1.
Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
So much to see, so what's wrong with taking the back street?
News Talk STL. Always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, retirement is a crazy thing because sometimes, folks, you're not doing preparation that you probably need to do. I know that a lot of people are busy and you're busy with the kids and you're doing all this kind of stuff. And then suddenly you're at the age of retirement and suddenly you're retired and you're thinking, oh, I forgot to make these long-term plans. I forgot. Oh, I wish I would have put more money in, and I wish I would have figured out exactly what I'm going to need for my rent and my mortgage or whatever it happens to be, my tax liabilities, my health insurance, all that stuff. Well, the Gemini Wealth Group and Jeff Portman are going to be there for you. Jeff is a friend of mine, great guy, and you can call him directly at 314-888-0123, 314-888-0123. TheGeminiWealthGroup.com is the website, and they'll sit down with you. Let's say you're about to retire and you really want to get all your ducks in a row, make sure everything is diversified adequately or not. Or maybe you retire within the past 1, 2, 3 years, and you're not really quite confident about how things are going, maybe even with somebody else. So get a second opinion from my friends at the Gemini Wealth Group. Check it out on the web, thegeminiwealthgroup.com, thegeminiwealthgroup.com, proud supporters of your retirement and free common sense conservative radio.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
Hi, I'm Helene Tobler, culinary nutritionist at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Here we do practical wellness. Dr. Randy and I have a common sense approach to healthcare. My passion is helping our members enjoy better nutrition because food is medicine. We approach problems with a lifestyle foundation and cutting-edge medical tool chest. At Body of Health, it's about being your healthiest you. If you want to experience healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Human trafficking is occurring right here in Missouri. You can help combat it by learning the signs of human trafficking and reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. Victims may appear malnourished, show signs of mental or physical abuse, or avoid social interaction. If you're a victim or know someone who needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text the word HELP to be free. Together, we can fight human trafficking in Missouri.
Brought to you by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
Are you sitting on hidden treasure? Manchester Coin and Jewelry wants to turn your valuables into cash. We're Missouri's premier gold buyers and jewelry specialists with years of expertise. We offer top dollar for your coins, antiques, precious metals, and collectibles. From gold and silver to clocks and jewelry, we buy it all. Don't let your treasures collect dust. Let Manchester Coin and Jewelry give you the best value. Visit online at buyingvaluables.net or come see him today at 141 in Manchester and tell him Newstalk STL sent you.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Common Sense Radio, the 3 Martini Lunch, everybody. I have a new martini shaker. It's shaped like a centrifuge. Shake that up. I don't really even know what a centrifuge is. I just know it sounds like it's a cylinder of some sort. But I know that whatever ones Iran had are now incinerator fuges. That's all I can say. I'm not worried about this. I'm worried about some of our troops overseas. But this is like, oh, good job. Even CNN, they get into this thing, now where it's like, well, you can't deny. It's like, well, man, you guys are trying hard to deny it. So, for instance, when the D.C. staff, so those Israeli embassy staffers were murdered outside the D.C. Jewish Museum, they were like, we can't deny the suspect said free Palestine. And so every time they kind of acknowledge being dragged, kicking and screaming into something that actually works or whatever, they use the "you can't deny" thing. This is how it sounded on CNN.
It was interesting. You were saying that this is like the capstone military strike of the post-October 7th era. And Sabrina, you were pointing out 25-minute operation for 75 strikes. So it was designed for impact. Unfortunately, we don't know what that impact is. What are you looking for going forward?
It was an incredibly complex operation. I mean, you cannot deny the professionalism of our military when it came to this operation.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. As much as they kind of might want to do that. And you see all these people who are reluctantly impressed with what happened. And when you think of all of the moving parts, and then actually when you think about this General Raisin Cain guy who President Trump appointed, he appointed him to this job, the Joint Chiefs Chairman. He appointed him. And so he's Trump's guy. And actually, when he was first appointed, there were a lot of people in the military who were like, I don't know, he doesn't have any experience this, he doesn't have any experience that. But you saw him and Pete Hegseth and these guys, and man, they were absolutely locked down on this. And of course, it took a lot of planning. President Trump did the 2-week window clearly to conceal their plans. And I mean, the meticulousness with which this was carried out. And we talked to Tony Minetti earlier, about the air refueling, the 4 times every 45 minutes, practically. I mean, that still is incredible to me. And just as an aside, by the way, I should go back there. I believe we have, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys can confirm this for me, right over at Scott. I mean, obviously, there's a chance that we have obviously the B2s are coming from Whiteman, but some of those air refuelers might have actually come from Scott, because if I'm not mistaken, we have an air refueler wing out there at Scott Air Force Base. And I remember going out there and talking to these guys a long time ago. I think maybe when I was at Channel 4. I don't know. I can't remember. Or maybe at the other radio station. But I went out there and saw these guys. And at that time, it was when McCain was refusing to allow a budget increase to bring the air refueler wing. Lloyd, thank you for confirming that. They are part of the Air Guard, the 126 air refueling wing. I remember at the time, I believe this was like in 2008, so it was when I was at the radio. And McCain had refused to increase the budget to refurbish the air refuelers, and the ones we were using at the time, I'm trusting that this is different. The ones we were using at the time were like planes from the 70s. And these guys were just saying, hey, it would be great if we could update, the air refueling wing airplanes, because we're flying in these planes that are pretty darn old. And I just remember it was a thing. I don't know how it all turned out, but that was 20 years ago, and so I would assume that since then greater minds have prevailed, and McCain, who didn't want to give that money to the air refueling wing and to do that, probably changed things. But I wouldn't be surprised if most of our air refuelers are within the Guard. When I was there were 35 refueling wings and only 2 were active duty. Okay, I got you. So who knows? Maybe some of them were there. Anyway, it was an incredible operation. I think that everybody kind of fell into this thing where, here goes World War III, here we go. And I think that as much planning as went into this particular operation, I guarantee you there was just as much planning to prepare for the aftermath of the operation. So you're noticing that Iran is just throwing missiles all over the Middle East now, and its Arab neighbors, which isn't going to help it. But that's Iran's problem. And you're noticing, and God forbid, I mean, I continue to pray for the safety of our military men and women, but so far it has been met with very, very mixed success, probably because of the preparations ahead of time to reduce any possibility of too much loss in terms of property and no loss of life. This is Common Sense Radio. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
Tim Jones here. Being a recovering lawyer, don't call me for your legal needs, but you should call Todd Sivia and the fine folks at Sivia Law. At Sivia Law, they'll help you through all of life's transitions, providing you with legal services in the areas of estate planning, elder law, special needs, real estate, personal injury, and much more. Locations across Western Illinois and Eastern Missouri, including right here in Creve Coeur and Wentzville. Call Sivia Law today for any and all of your legal needs. 833-995-WILL. SiviaLaw.com. SiviaLaw.com.
Are you in a constant battle with mosquitoes outside your house? Well, stop smacking yourself in the face and call Mosquito Joe. Whether it's playing ball with the kids or cooking out with friends, Mosquito Joe treatments allow you to enjoy your yard without the nuisance of pesky mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas. No more itching and scratching, and no more wasting time on smelly products that don't work. Visit MosquitoJoe.com or call 855-ASK-A-JOE to get more information and a free quote. With Mosquito Joe, outside is fun again.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michael's Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. Iran has launched missile attacks on U.S. military bases in Qatar and Iraq, retaliating for the American bombing of its nuclear sites and escalating tensions in the region. Witnesses reported seeing missiles in the skies, followed by explosions. No early word on damage or casualties. Iran announced on state television that it attacked American forces stationed at Qatar's Al Udeid Air Base shortly after Qatar closed its airspace as a precaution. Iran also targeted an air base housing U.S. troops in western Iraq. That's according to an Iraqi security official speaking to the AP. So far, there's been no official White House reaction. However, in his address to the nation on Saturday night, President Trump warned Iran to make peace or face more attacks.
There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days.
Earlier today, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded to the possibility of Iran shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, which handles about 20% of the world's oil trade traffic.
I can assure you the administration is actively and closely monitoring this situation in the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranian regime would be foolish to make that decision.
In New York, Governor Kathy Hochul has ordered stepped-up security in the wake of the U.S. bombing in Iran.
You can rest assured that we have highly trained people in place for vulnerable times like these. We have robust safeguards in place to protect our public transit system. We've increased law enforcement presence at MTA commuter hubs, in the New York City subway system, and other sensitive locations.
On Wall Street, stocks now pushing higher. The Nasdaq ahead 157 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Onder Law. Call for a free consultation because winning is what we do at Onder Law. Call 314 or 618-9000. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. An extreme heat warning still in effect for the St. Louis Metro through Tuesday evening. We'll see mostly sunny skies today with a high of 97. Peak heat index up to about 103. Partly cloudy tonight as we drop to 78. Partly cloudy on Tuesday with a 20% chance for a few isolated afternoon showers and thunderstorms and a high of 94 degrees. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
Another RX Watch brought to you by Onder Law.
Welcome back to RX Watch. This alert is disturbing.
Right.
A while back, we learned that companies like Johnson & Johnson use a mineral called talc in baby powder and other products.
And studies show that talc, when used for feminine hygiene, can cause ovarian cancer.
Now listen to this. RX Watch has learned that the talc they use is being mined in China.
Right, and talc mined in China contains heavy metal contaminants like chromium and magnesium, which are known to cause cancer. But China doesn't care.
So China gets the jobs and we get contaminated talc in our baby powder.
And ovarian cancer.
Right. With their specialized tests, the medical team at Onder Law can help you know if your ovarian cancer was caused by talc.
Onder Law has helped women for years with free and confidential consultation. You need to call Onder Law's pharma attorneys at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
Call Onder Law at 1-800-RX-WATCH.
That's 1-800-RX-WATCH or go to rxwatch.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Is your retirement income at risk if you or your spouse needs nursing home or in-home care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. The cost of long-term care is one of the biggest risks in retirement planning. For many retirees, a single nursing home stay can cause a significant reduction in assets that can permanently reduce your retirement income. Fortunately, there are affordable and flexible options available today that can help you manage the cost of long-term care. Our team can help you address the risks relevant to your retirement, including long-term care. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL. This hour of the Allman Report brought to you by Proctor Drapery Blinds and Shutters. Proctor, spelled like doctor. ProctorDrapery.com.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. And of course, as it is whenever we are in times of consternation and strife and questions and everything else, you must follow me as we climb up to the mountain and to the top to see our common sense guru and see what he has to say. And his name is Judge Andrew Napolitano, a good friend of mine for so long, just such a great guy, and in super high demand as questions loom about constitutionality and what's going on and everything else. Judge Napolitano, thank you very much for coming on to the show. And, well, first of all, good afternoon, and what's your take?
Good afternoon, Jamie. Thank you very much. A pleasure to be with you.
Indeed.
So my take that under the Constitution, only the Congress can declare war. Under the War Powers Resolution enacted by Congress in 1973 over President Nixon's veto, which has never been tested by the courts, the president can initiate hostilities, A, for national security, or B, in compliance with a treaty obligation for 60 days, and he must inform the Congress. So this was neither for national security, since even they were working on a nuclear weapon, they didn't have the means to deliver it to us. And B, there's no treaty obligation. So there are serious legal issues here. That's the technical, legal, constitutional argument. The practical view of this, however, is the courts never get involved. No court has ever, the exception of one, which I can tell you in a minute, purported to restrain the president from the exercise of his military functions. The court would view this as what's known as a political question. That's an actual doctrine, the political question doctrine. It basically means it is for the other two branches, the political branches, executive or legislative, and not for the court to resolve. But when people as disparate as Bernie Sanders and Rand Paul say the president can't do this on his own, technically they are right, but as a practical matter, only Congress, not the courts, only Congress can restrain him.
So how does Congress then at that point restrain him? There are some people, if they want to, by the way, There are some people calling for impeachment, but it looks like, as a practical matter, as you say, he's been well within his reach here, much like Obama was back in the day when he was bombing things that nobody really raised any cane about. Well, some people did. What would they do? What would be their restraining act?
Your humble correspondent did. And then we learned that Obama, when he bombed Libya, they were real bombs and real American jets and real human beings in real uniforms, but they weren't the military. They were intelligence assets. And the War Powers Resolution only requires reporting and congressional consent for the use of the military. Because in 1973, when the War Powers Resolution was enacted, it was inconceivable that the CIA would have its own army and Air Force, which it does today. We don't know if Trump gave notice to the Congress. I don't think he did, or we would have heard of it. The Congress has established a way for the president to give notice. It's profoundly unconstitutional, but they've established it, and it's called the Gang of Eight. The Gang of Eight consists of the chair and ranking members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees and the leaders of the Republican and Democratic parties in the House and the Senate. Those 8 people received notification from the president, not over the telephone, but over a secured facility. And because they swear an oath not to reveal what he has told them, they can't reveal it. But what kind of a democracy is this, where 8 people in Congress can know something and the other 527 can't, and the 330 million people that they represent can't? But that's the law that's been established. So I don't think Trump even complied with that law, which requires notification to Congress. All this brings us back to my friend, little Jimmy Madison, because of the great debates they had in 1789 when they wrote the Constitution. Should the president be able to do this on his own? And Madison prevailed and said he can't start a war on his own. That makes him a king or a prince, not a president. We must separate the war making, choosing the target, from the war waging, actually managing the war. That can't be in the same person. Now, again, Jamie, these are theoretical, constitutional, appellate court, law school arguments. In the real world, with the exception of one instance that I know of in the modern era, the courts have never restrained a president from using the military.
Interesting. So tell me then about the term commander-in-chief. Is that largely a routine title? Is it a political title? Because presumably within, and I'm not trying to be cute here, I'm just saying, presumably within the title of commander-in-chief, you could actually commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces. So technically, I mean, you are the commander-in-chief on top of being the chief executive officer of America. You know, it's interesting, those two titles together.
Well, that's a great question, because to Madison, commander-in-chief meant commander-in-chief in wartime. It did not mean commander-in-chief to start a war. That's pretty clear. But look, the last time the Congress declared war was December 8th, 1941. We all know what that was about. Since then, we've fought between 35 and 37 wars. Not a single one has been declared. Congress looks the other way. So when you hear Bernie Sanders and AOC on one side and Rand Paul and Thomas Massie on the other side saying this is a violation of the Constitution, their words are really falling on deaf ears, because Congress looks the other way. If the president does something that's popular, either because the public is afraid of the people the president has attacked, or he's done a good job of selling what he wants to do, Congress is not going to get involved. Now, when George W. Bush invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, he got authorization from Congress and from the UN. So as much as I opposed those wars, he did them lawfully. Trump has not. Trump has violated the UN Charter, which the United States and Iran are both members of. Charter was written by the United States. Not only did we sign it, we wrote it. But he does these things on his own and expects his political star to rise.
Yeah. So what's the difference between a declaration of war and a war authorization? Like, why didn't Congress at that particular point declare war on Iran? On Iraq.
Well, I don't know why, but the difference is, and this is where a lot of legal scholars have an issue. We're really in the weeds now.
Yeah.
It's an authorization to use military force, commonly referred to by its acronym AUMF, authorization to use military force. And AUMF does not have an endpoint. When Donald Trump assassinated General Soleimani, the Iranian general in Iraq, trying to discuss peace with his Iraqi counterparts, he claimed as authority the AUMF of 2002. Well, the AUMF of 2002 was to authorize an invasion of Iraq, but because there was no end point, it was still out there like a loaded gun in the president's desk drawer, ready for him to pick up and shoot. A declaration of war ends when the country or group that has had war declared upon it surrenders. So that is basically the difference. Those AUMFs, there are 3 of them, they're still out there. Now, some of the people that Trump and Biden killed, personally, of course, in Afghanistan weren't even born when the AUMFs were enacted. And the AUMFs were enacted to enable the president to pursue the people that caused 9/11. So if these people hadn't been born on 9/11, they obviously had nothing to do with it, but presidents used it anyway because it's still out there.
Yeah.
The declaration of war against Japan, Germany, and Italy obviously ended the moment representatives of those governments signed the instruments of surrender.
I don't think it's any accident that in the address the other night by President Trump that he actually specifically mentioned Soleimani, which I thought was interesting because I think that would jog some of the memories of the leadership over in Iran. I'm not quite sure why he did specifically mention his name, but you never know what's in the offing. And I guess when people talk about his act being unconstitutional, and again, I'm not trying to be cute here, technically that has not been determined and probably never will if based on the court's and the court's previous inaction. So even when people talk about this being unconstitutional, technically there has been no adjudication of that question.
That's 100% correct. It would require a member of Congress to sue the president and the court to agree to take the case. I mean, theoretically, the court can rule on the constitutionality of any piece of legislation. But it just like with the Patriot Act, it is going to run from this thing like a hot potato.
Yeah.
So if Congressman Massey or Senator Paul were to sue President Trump, I would think the court would simply dismiss it and say it's a political question. You're in the wrong side of First Street, which is the street the court is on. On the other side, it was the Capitol building. You can't succeed here by persuading 5 of us. You have to succeed by persuading 67 senators and 325 members of the House. I'm giving you numbers sufficient to override a presidential veto.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's more consternation over what happened in Iran than there ever has been for Ukraine. I mean, these guys all just opened their wallets for Ukraine. Now that we've seen a bunch of neo-Nazis in the Ukrainian military over there. I haven't seen much of a peep from the people who are peeping about this now. But anyway,
yeah,
can't keep up.
That's hard. I mean, this stuff is from the perspective of judges, lawyers, professors, legal scholars, this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
But presidents have gotten away from it. Even Obama, using the CIA to kill Gaddafi. Now, he was actually killed by his own people, but as a result of the bombs, it destroyed his government and it killed the people that were protecting him, and then the mob literally tore him apart. Hillary Clinton boasted about that and said, we came, we saw, he died. So this was obviously something, she was the Secretary of State at the time. This is obviously something they planned and plotted, and there was no recourse. Just like the murder of General Soleimani, there was no warrant out for him. He hadn't been accused of any crime. He was on his way to lunch. He was just offed by a drone triggered by the CIA. So again, Trump avoided using the Obama model, avoided the notification requirement. It was murder, pure and simple. No justification for it whatsoever. But there'll be no consequences.
Yeah.
No legal consequences.
Well, I'm sure your awesome show, and of course you're on Newsmax as well. Judging Freedom, how's that going? Everything going well for you? Because I know it's probably more widely watched than a lot of regular network television programs. So I'm just so happy that you're doing great.
Notwithstanding where I work, the answer to your statement is yes. Yesterday,
right,
on for 30, we had 755,000 viewers.
Love it. Wow. That's a lot, my man. You're doing great work. Well, Judge Napolitano, thank you so much for the generosity of your time. We'll see you on Newsmax. See you at judgingfreedom.com, and appreciate you as always.
Always a pleasure, Jamie. God love you. All the best.
God love you too. That is Judge Andrew Napolitano. Yeah. So this is the favorite part of the whole thing. And that is that when everybody and when anybody says that what President Trump did was unconstitutional, all you have to do is say, who says? And if it's anybody but a judge on the United States Supreme Court, then it's not technically true. So you can tell them to go eat a bag. That's what I love about that. Let's demand precision from these people. It hasn't happened. It hasn't been adjudicated. It hasn't been decided. So as of now, it's constitutional. There you go. No matter what anybody says, unless they're actually the majority, by the way, of the United States Supreme Court. So there you have it. There you are. It's Common Sense Radio. As always, this is the Allman Report on News Talk STL.
This is News Talk STL at 1019 991 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy. This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Yes, indeed. Old school hardware store. How about that? 100 years in Old Town St. Peter's, and that would be Schneider's True Value Hardware Store. Family owned and operated. They are the authorized dealer of all those really awesome steel products. These are the battery operated yard care products, everything else. The steel product really is the latest line in the perfected art of battery powered types of yard tools and beyond. Some of these other guys, quality, they've fallen off the wayside. Steel is the brand new frontier, and they are the authorized dealer of steel products, including sales, parts, as well as service. They offer a wide range of tools, offer a wide range of advice for you. If you're working on something in the house or in the yard, all you really have to do is go in there, ask for Jerry Schneider or Charlie or any of the team members, and they'll be there to help you through all of this and get the job done. So they've got a lot of knowledge there, the kind of personal service you're not going to find at the big box stores, and also the prices you're not necessarily going to find at the big box stores. They always say that, the bigger you are, the cheaper it is. It's like, that's not true. Really never has been, and certainly not true at Schneider's True Value Hardware Store, your hardware destination, one nail at a time. Check it out at truevalue.com/Schneiders, truevalue.com/Schneiders, right there for more than 100 years in Old Town St. Peter's.
Reed's Rockets in Wright City has your fireworks. Try the Max 800 shot for a 30-minute show. Want the ultimate American celebration? Get This Is America with over 100 gigantic color bursts. Family owned and operated, Reed's caters for families with the biggest kid selection. Spend $100 or more and get a kids assortment free. Reed's Rockets, 425 West Service Road North in Wright City. Take I-70 exit 199 and look for the big red and white striped tent. Open through July 10th. ReedsRockets.com.
Reed's Rockets in Wright City has your fireworks. Try the Max 800 shot for a 30-minute show. Want the ultimate American celebration? Get This Is America with over 100 gigantic color bursts. Family owned and operated, Reed's caters to families with the biggest kid selection. Spend $100 or more and get a kids assortment free. Reed's Rockets, 425 West Service Road North in Wright City. Take I-70 exit 199 and look for the big red and white striped tent. Open through July 10th. ReedsRockets.com.
This is Katie McKinney, founder and head of school for Lafayette Academy in Lake St. Louis. Recently, we had a new second grader come to Lafayette Academy who claimed he was stupid and hated reading. Within months of using our world-class literacy program, he was reading Harry Potter and loving it. He had just not been given the right tools. We invite you to our open house Wednesday, June 25th from 5 till 7 and hear from our current families and learn more about our dedicated teachers and world-class curriculum. To learn more, go to LafayetteAcademy.org. That's LafayetteAcademy.org.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's the Allman Report on News Talk STL, and I still don't. I never sometimes know why, and a lot of people know or think they know why I keep getting things like that go roll through my feed all the time. And like I remember the Savannah Bananas, they were coming through my feed all the time. The Harlem Globetrotters baseball team, because I just found out they're coming to St. Louis like in 3 weeks. And so that's how that happens in your algorithms, whatever else. I still can't figure out why Freddie Mercury and Queen videos are showing up, because I know they're not coming to St. Louis in 3 weeks. So I'm trying to figure out like how that happens, or did I at some point get into a situation where I clicked on something and now it's happening, whatever. All right, so we've got this is kind of like the Hamas Health Ministry. This is something called Iran's Supreme National Security Council. And right now they're telling anybody who will listen that they have pulverized the Qatar U.S. base, one that President Trump, who recently visited there. And there are no casualties from the strike. The individuals obviously, as much as went into the preparation for the actual bombing, there was preparation for the actual aftermath of said bombing. And of course, that's playing out right now. And you also see as well that Iran has reached out to Hezbollah. Hey, you need to help us. Hezbollah's like, no, thanks. After watching not only what we did, but all the absolute just loveliness of the IDF. So Hezbollah's like, I think we're going to take we're going to sit this one out if you don't mind, Ayatollah. And then, of course, he's reaching out to Russia now. The Ayatollah is, and Putin, you know what's happening here. Putin and Putin knows he better stay away from Iran, Khamenei. He knows better, and I'm sure Trump will remind him. Want to let you know, one of my favorite posts on X came from a man named Daniel Flesh. He is a Middle Eastern expert in with the Heritage Foundation, a buddy of one of our buddies, Jim Carafano, of course. I love this post. He says, Trump has done more to defend Western civilization in one night than Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and every other Ivy League school in more than 50 years. I am really happy to have the great Daniel Flesh on the air with me from Washington, D.C. Daniel Flesh, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great today. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great observation. Made a lot of us smile when you said it. Well, because it's true. It's not just hyperbole, right? As Joe Biden would say, it's actually true.
Well, isn't that the darndest thing? It's the best when things you say are actually true. It is, and I have to say though, it gives me no pleasure. I mean, maybe a small bit of pleasure, but really no pleasure to say something like that, because you want our Ivy League institutions, you want some of the great academies of the United States to be just that, great. They've done this to themselves, and thankfully we have President Trump in office who has demonstrated over the weekend, like I said, that he is willing to advance the United States' interest in Western civilization more so than our greatly esteemed Ivy Leagues.
So in the end, I mean, what we're seeing now, and I'm not quite sure whether or not this is really just part of the whole design and trap, is you see that Iran now is temper tantruming, but they're taking a lot of their energies out on their fellow Middle Eastern countries, which is, I realize they're targeting the bases and everything, but and you heard me talking about Hezbollah kind of sitting this one out. So where do you think Iran is compared to where it's claiming that it is?
Yeah, it's a very interesting time for us to have this conversation. I don't mean just this month, this week, or this day, but this hour, because as you're referring to, in the last hour, 2 hours, we learned that Iran launched missiles at the United States' largest military base in the region, the Al Udeid Air Force Base, which is based in Qatar. And so Iran, I mean, after Operation Midnight Hammer, which the U.S. bombed the strategic nuclear sites in Iran, of the incredible operation over the weekend, Iran has to do something to respond. I mean, really, they don't have to do anything to respond, because the Ayatollah can just either, as Trump requested on Twitter, to have unconditional surrender. He can simply ignore that in some sense. But of course, if the regime, which has been chanting death to America and Israel, and the U.S. is the great Satan, for which Israel is a little Satan, for 46 years, if we're truly the enemy, they have to do something to respond. And he chose to attack a U.S. military base in the region. Now, reports are coming out that the regime notified or communicated to the Qataris and even to the U.S. that this might be coming, as to, again, do something in response, but not do so much in response. This actually reflects their response after Trump in the first administration in January 2020 took out the most important military commander that Iran had, the head of the IRGC, Qasem Soleimani. In response to that, they sent a few missiles into an American base in Iraq, which concussed and caused some harm to American service members there. But really, they have to respond in some fashion, because otherwise they're going to be completely exposed as inept and weak.
Yeah, no doubt about it, it seems. And we're talking with Daniel Flesh. He's a senior policy analyst, Middle East and North Africa affairs at the Ellison Center for National Security at the wonderful Heritage Foundation. So how then at this point I know there's already some talk about, Iran reaching out to Russia and about China and about the closing of the Strait of Hormuz and all that kind of stuff. So how are these other players going to factor into what's going to be happening over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, you mentioned this closing the Strait of Hormuz. That is a way that Iran can respond. And if they were to close the Strait, that is a grave, I think, strategic error on their part, because that would necessitate a sizable American response, perhaps even more so than this attack, because the key U.S. interest in the region is to ensure the free flow of energy out of the region, which most of it comes from the 20% of the world's oil comes from the transits through the Strait of Hormuz. So that's an American national security imperative, even if it's not for our consumption, because we're energy independent, but still for the world's consumption. And in response, in regards to how Russia and China might react, well, let's look real quickly what happened this past December in 2024 when the Bashar al-Assad regime fell in Syria. And Assad was the biggest proxy country of Iran, and also they hosted a Russian military base there. But in Assad's defense, Russia did not come, nor did the Iranians. They left them out to dry, and Assad now is living in refuge or in exile in Moscow. So it's unlikely you'll see either Russia or China come to Iran's defense. Now, the three have been working in some coordination the last number of years, and the expectation is still going forward to thwart U.S. global dominance, essentially. They're working as an axis against the U.S. interests. But Iran is the most junior partner of those three, although it does apply significant drone capabilities to Russia, which has been using in the battlefield in Ukraine. But still, there's limited things that Russia or China can do to support Iran. So Iran's likely on its own in this fight if it chooses to continue this fight with the United States and with Israel.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Where do you really think they are at this point? And I realize this. I told his name, his successors, and all that kind of stuff. He's in a bunker. What do you think, if you're looking at this, would be the next phase? There were some people think. I mean, I know they're talking about regime change and all this kind of stuff, but do you think that we're going to possibly reach a point where there's actually like a westernized revolution there, not with our help, but just organically with the people and the Persians in Iran?
Well, let me say from the outset, from your lips to God's ears, there's nothing more than we should want in America than to have a pro-American, pro-West country in Iran. And the opportunity is for that realization, that dream to come true, actually is within our grasp. The Iranian people have been under the boots of the regime for 46 years, but they are a largely Western-aligned, liberal, and even secular, increasingly secular country. And they've been held captive, essentially, by the regime. And of course, the phrase regime change it carries a lot of weight with it, understandably. But I want people to understand, to recognize that when we talk about Iran, it's not entering the foray of Iraq or Afghanistan from a quarter century ago. First off, if you kill the Ayatollah, you have the IRGC, which is really the army that the regime created to protect the regime. So they would still be standing. And he mentioned he named successors. There's, another way of looking at that is he named next targets for the Israeli Air Force to take out. And he did not name anyone personally close to him as among those successors, which is of note. So the idea of regime change is not so much toppling the regime and then it's left to the United States to do nation building. Far from it. It's left to the Iranian people, which have already been protesting for years, even going back to 2009, but protesting for years for freedom from the regime. And again, we can live in a world one day where Israel and Iran are the best of allies in the region, and Iran is pro-West and pro-America.
Yeah, it's interesting, Daniel Flesh, that we really, I don't ever see, I think a while back, maybe I saw some magazine piece on some of the westernized Iranians, but you never see them. It's kind of weird. I mean, I'm sure that it's a little more like North Korea. They keep things pretty buttoned up, but you never see the normal, average, everyday Iranian.
Well, first off, a lot of them are living in Los Angeles. Those who fled the regime are able to. They live in Los Angeles, and they're very, anti-regime, pro-Iranian, pro-American, but anti-regime. But you have seen in recent years a cross-section of Iranian society demonstrating against the regime. Mahsa Amini was a woman, 18 or 20 years old, whose hair was peeking out from underneath her hijab, her head covering, and she was jailed by the police there and was beaten to death while in custody and captivity. And this is just a few years ago, and that sparked more nationwide protests against the regime. And there were instances the last couple of years of Iranian women cutting their hair in defiance of the regime. So this is not, again, the analogy with Iraq and Afghanistan is not really appropriate here. This is a people that are on their own doing what they can to defy the regime. What they need is support from the outside, and that support can come in many different ways. One way that Israel's doing it right now is to attack sites of the regime, not just nuclear and military sites, but also key institutions, such as their propaganda news arm, such as a site we learned overnight they attacked just yesterday is a countdown clock that the regime has in the middle of Tehran, counting down to 2040 when Israel is supposed to be destroyed. Now, destroying that has no practical strategic value other than a symbolic value, showing that the regime is weak. But beyond that, Elon Musk turned on Starlink to beam communications to the people because the regime cut off the internet about a week ago. So there's a lot that can be done to support the people to take into their own hands to rise up against the regime if and when they're able to, but certainly once the regime is proven to be even weaker than it is.
Well, it's fabulous stuff. I appreciate you taking so much time out of here. If you want to follow Daniel on X, and it's great, and he's very entertaining on top of being very, very insightful. Daniel Flesch, Flesch, at Daniel_Flesch on Twitter. You can just look him up. You'll find him. He's right at the top there when you Google it. And speaking of that, thank you also for teaching me or leading me to need to learn how to do a calendar invite. Daniel's like, hey, send me a calendar invite. I'm like going, I went to my email, was trying all this stuff, and I was like, I finally had to admit that I said, you know what? I don't know how to do a calendar invite. So I'll get there.
You're making me sound high maintenance.
No, man. I mean, it's funny because, as long as I've been in the business, I'm so undereducated about some of the more technical things that everybody else knows how to do. So, I'm like, calendar invite. I've heard of those, so I'm not a Luddite by any stretch of the imagination, but no, you're not high maintenance at all, buddy. I just was laughing about how, I'm just kind of like I'm high maintenance. I'm the one who had to have somebody, your assistant, line us up. So, it's that kind of thing. Anyway, buddy, it's great talking to you. Thanks so much. And we appreciate you.
My pleasure. Anytime. It's been a real pleasure.
All right. Thank you. That is Daniel Flesch and calendar invite. You know what those are? Because I know people know. I know I really sound stupid when I act like I don't know what it is. But when people, for a lot of people who live like Daniel does, keep in mind he's with the Heritage Foundation. Like they've got meetings all day long and interviews and Zooms and all this other stuff. So you have to have some level of organization. But unfortunately, have I gotten away with murder in my lack of organization. Jeff Allen's probably like, no, we've noticed. I'm like, okay, never mind. I can put together a pretty good show, though, just so you know. It's Common Sense Radio. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL 101.9 and 94.1.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
Well, I talked to Jordan Rosenblum a little bit earlier, and man, these guys are rocking there at Stewart's American Mortgage, Stewart'sAMC.com, Stewart's American Mortgage Company. So all you have to do is Google the bagel loan. In fact, Vicki Howard, thank you so much. I shouldn't be giving that away, but she's contacted me and said, hey, want to know about what your realtor work doing with the Wallner team, and also wanted to find the guys with the bagel loan. And so I hope that you choose us both there, Vicki. And thank you very much for your interest in that. Stewart's American Mortgage, Stewart'sAMC.com, or just Google the bagel loan. What this is the bagel represents a zero, meaning you have zero appraisal fees, zero lending fees, zero costs of credit pulls. There are some people who spend charge you $300 just for a credit pull. There are no closing costs on your purchase of a home. No closing costs. Imagine what you can do. For instance, like one of my clients, Debbie, she was able to save $6,000. Imagine what you could do with that, either in knowing you can do that so you can bid a little more for the house, or just for whatever improvements you might need to make once you move in. $6,000 is a ton of money to be able to play around with, and that's exactly what they will allow you to do, Stewart, as well as Jordan, at just Googling the bagel loan, and you're in. Also, by the way, on the refinancing, they do a ton of that. Same deal, same low rates. Oh, I meant to mention, too, on the closings, that's coming with a low rate, the lowest you're going to find anywhere. So there are a lot of others, they can't do that and still have a low rate. It's like, yeah, you can. because they do so much of it. They're so popular. That's what they do. And I'm really glad they're trusting me to talk about them. And Jordan is absolutely a great partner with me in my real estate work. And also when it comes to debt consolidation, they'll do the same for you as well in terms of the closing, in terms of the money and the no fees, no nickel and diming, any of that stuff. Google the bagel loan, stewartsamc.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Did Donald Trump and Republicans make everything great again over the weekend? We'll discuss with Senator Jim Talent at 425. At 525, Red State Headlines with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Jamie Allman here, really happy to be with you, and just going to deal with a couple of black racists here in this final segment, because you always need to be kind of appraised of the fact that they exist. Jasmine Crockett is a great example of that. Crockett is, boy, what a waste of good looks, too, you know? And she is absolutely just out of her mind. And she's very upset that Donald Trump didn't tell her about bombing Iran. And it's like, girl, have you seen yourself on Twitter and at hearings? Does anybody tell you anything that they're going to do if you've ever been kind of crosswise with him or not? My goodness gracious. And I don't know what it is about the Democrat Party. I mean, man, Marjorie Taylor Greene had to tell Ocasio-Cortez to shut up. It's like these people are out of their minds. But anyway, Jasmine's all upset because she wasn't notified about anything.
Made it clear that he wanted to reiterate that the power as relates to war declaration, the power that we derive from the Constitution.
We actually don't. We derive those powers from God, but I'll just sit here. You want me to sit here and watch you, sadly, try to machete your way through the foundational principles of this country? Or, I mean, this is like 21 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but I mean, she doesn't even know. You can tell she's struggling because she has she's trying to remember like what she read on somebody else's page, and she can't really remember, but she's trying. God love her.
Supposed to be advising him. I will say that I want to give a shout out to a Republican, Thomas Massey, who made it clear that he wanted to reiterate that the power as relates to war declaration, the power that we derive from the Constitution, it resides with Congress. And
that's one way to put it. Whatever you just said. It actually is not true. We just talked about that with Judge Napolitano, and even though Judge Napolitano is a Trump skeptic, and this is why we like him, though, because he lets us think about other things. And obviously, sometimes legally he's right, but he said, legally, this might be in conflict with whatever is Congress's power, but practically and in the normal, average, every way of life, none of it's going to matter because a judge is not going to be adjudicating this. And as I told you before, and I want you to remember this, like, so you can carry this with you. Whenever somebody says that this, whatever happened is unconstitutional, you need to ask them who says, and if it's not Supreme Court Justice blah blah blah, and it's a majority of them, then saying it's unconstitutional is just you spitballing because it has not been adjudicated that that is the case. Now, it might sound like I'm urging you to be cute or, you know, coy or whatever, but the fact is, if you're going to call it unconstitutional, you need to have some basis to believe that. And if your basis is not somebody in a robe in the chamber of the U.S. Supreme Court, then you're just blabbering. That's it.
The House is out. Hell, the Senate is out.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't. With the House and Senate out on summer vacation, you shouldn't be trying to defend the United States of America and its interest. You need to wait till we come back from the beach. I mean, come on. You can't bomb somebody while we out to lunch. It's like, whatever. That definitely, I know, is not Congress's power in terms of like, well, when we out, we're on break. You can't do anything while we're on break. It's like, no, that's not true. You just because you put a little sign over your door that says closed does not mean that the security interests of the United States of America and indeed the world come to a halt because you're gone.
It's Saturday.
It's Saturday. You can't act on Saturday while we're gone. It's like, excuse me? It's kind of one of those things where like expecting that, you can't, you got to wait till the specific time when it's convenient for Congress to defend the world and the United States of America. Well, I would have saved the world on Saturday, but Jasmine Crockett was gone.
Now, so no one's in. We ain't been called in.
We ain't called it. You okay? So again, this is the typical problem that we have in the reaches of government and the way some of these bureaucrats act, and that's kind of thing. Lack of preparation on your part does not constitute an emergency on our part. It's like, the hell it doesn't. I mean, this isn't like the offices of the recorder of deeds in the city of St. Louis, please. And so again, I'm sure, even as Judge Napolitano says with, as he calls him, Jimmy Madison, I'm sure that the Constitution and the construct of war powers and whose responsibility is it wasn't dependent on whether or not Congress was in or not, or whether Congress was working or on vacation. Is there anything in the Constitution? Well, Congress is blah, 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 except when they are on vacation, except when they are on break.
And let me just explain briefly why
Oh, listen, Jasmine's going to explain something to us. This ought to be fun.
am so heartbroken is because I don't think.
No wonder this is taking 21 minutes. I want to tell you why I am so heartbroken, and is because it's like, gee whiz, spit it out.
A number of nations should have nuclear weapons. Like, let's just kind of.
She's lucky she's cute, because at least I can look at something while I'm hearing the dog staring into the Victrola cone speech.
Level set on that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want anybody randomly just kind of coming at our throats and being like, yo, like y'all got nukes, so we just don't, like, no.
Yeah. I mean, I understand there are some people who do believe that, there's a level of sovereignty as it relates to Iran. I've heard that argument before. Iran, though, lied about it and indicated that they needed it for for their own energy needs when they have oil squirting out of the cracks in the sidewalks over there. So we knew it wasn't for energy needs. And we also knew that Iran specifically stated it wanted to destroy other countries with its weapons. And that's not something that the United States does. So to try to equivocate this thing, well, the U.S. has nukes and Iran has nukes. And if the U.S. has nukes, why can't Iran have nukes? Well, the answer to that is really super easy. And Jasmine Crockett knows the answer to that. And that is that the U.S. isn't saying every other day that it's going to destroy or wipe a country off the face of the earth.
No.
Iran is.
It's not how you deal with things. And there is a such thing as diplomacy. And
yeah, which President Trump did for 60 days. Now, obviously, Jasmine might have been on break at that time and didn't notice what President Trump was doing for those 60 days, but there was active diplomacy for 60 days.
And we are living in this time in which there is someone who is occupying the White House who does not care about any rules, any norms, any laws, nor the Constitution.
Yeah. And the Ayatollah does, which is great because we actually have, this is another win. It happens all the time. You know, you've got Democrats who are once again now holding hands with the worst people in humanity, which is really great. And it's like, and now, of course, you saw that one guy at Colombia, who they fought so hard to release from jail and everything else. He's back out at Colombia calling for an intifada. So everything is working out swimmingly for the Democrats. And I realize that a lot of you in the common sense world and conservative world are having intelligent discussions about your concerns about what is happening. And I appreciate that and respect that and everything else. But while you're debating philosophically and while you're debating intelligently, don't forget to every once in a while look at your TVs or your computers and see Democrats actively defending the interests of Iran and the Ayatollah and the people who kill gays and hang them from cranes and the people who murder women who aren't wearing the proper outfit. So just make sure you pay attention to that every once in a while you're actually comporting yourself as intelligent Americans. So that's how it's going to go here, because they're out there. And I mean, like Thomas Massey, okay, he made a legitimate argument, but he's consistent about it, right? So Thomas Massey isn't in favor of the Ukrainian war either, right? So at least he's always been there, I'm not in favor of it either, but this isn't a war, what we're doing right now. What I'm saying is Thomas Massey has an intelligent something to say here about it, and he's got a lot more credibility than any Jasmine Crockett who is reflexively just kind of like hating on Trump, and that's where they stand, and that's the sum total of their rhetoric and their arguments. So just take some time, have a little fun with it, even as crazy as it all is. Appreciate all of you listening to the show today, to the Allman Report and News Talk STL 101.9 and 94.1. Ashlyn, thank you so much for your help. And coming up, as it always is, at 2 o'clock, the great Tony Colombo and Colombo and Company. Have a great rest of your day.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation